can you actually, for Caleb's Corner, because we started this conversation, Chris, and it never finished up. But for Caleb's Corner, can you break down why it is actually practical to buy a Lamborghini on a 150-month payment plan? Because you told me there was a reason why it was practical. So this Caleb's Corner will be dedicated to why every landscaper should buy a Lamborghini on a 150-month payment plan. Take it away, Chris Arnts. Break down the numbers.
Well, I would start by saying I don't necessarily think that every landscaper should buy a Lamborghini
every
on a 150-month payment plan.
That's no way to get people in your funnel.
No one.
It's for everyone, or it's for no one.
It's for everyone. It's for no one. What I was alluding to is more of a concept of if it was predetermined that you were going to be a landscaper who is going to own a Lamborghini at some point in time, that there potentially might be a financial argument as to the benefits of financing your Lamborghini for 150 months at 6% interest. So, but in order to, provide the background to the story, I need to know, how far do we want to go back? Like, do we want to go like 1971? Do we want to talk about 1933? Do we want to go back to 1913? Like, do we have like minutes or hours?
We have as long as this takes. This is Caleb's Corner, baby. This is the only thing that's going to be useful on this whole podcast. Take us back to 1933, Great Depression. I am eating dry white toast.
Yeah, so 1933, Great Depression, you're eating dry white toast. President Theodore Roosevelt in the United States issues a decree basically making it illegal for citizens of the United States to own gold. So you may be sitting there eating your white toast, but maybe buried somewhere in your backyard or in a safe in your basement, you still have a little bit of your life savings sitting in gold bars. So the president of your country comes on the air, on the radio at that time. There's posters all over the place. You can look this up online. You can find like actual pictures of newspaper articles and posters where they basically said it is now illegal for United States citizens to own gold. So you had to take your gold and give it back to the United States Treasury. And the United States,
did they pay you for it?
Or did they did. No, they paid you. They paid you $20, give or take. Because the price of gold from about 1913 up to 1933 was $20 a troy ounce. So they said, people of America, it's the Great Depression and you need to help us get out of this. So too many of you are, actually storing your savings and your value in gold, and that's what's ruining everything. So give us all your gold and we will give you $20 for every ounce of gold. So what had been happening since 1913, of course, was that the United States government had just printed more money than they were supposed to. And so there was really more dollars in circulation than there was gold. So what they did is they took everybody's gold. And then a year later, once they had everybody's gold, they said, surprise, we have come up with the perfect solution to solve the Great Depression. All that gold that you gave us, that we gave you $20 an ounce for, is now actually worth $35. But we own all the gold, so it doesn't really matter. So, did you share your screen there, Mike?
Sorry, I'm muted. I was just sharing what you were talking about there in the newspaper.
Yeah, pull that up again.
Okay.
This is the most informative podcast we've ever had, but definitely relevant to the inflation problems of today.
It is. So, this is the crux of the situation.
So what are you saying now? The U.S. government is going to buy your Lamborghini or something?
No.
Or how does it? Are we on? Did I miss a beat? I must have missed a beat.
No,
it's coming.
Goes back. The start. It's coming, Chad.
How long till this happens to Bitcoin?
Oh, who knows? Well, so here's the thing. So say you're a person in the United States and you decided, you know what, I don't agree with this, so I'm not going to give the government my gold, right? You said, no, I'm gonna, which some people did. Like some people didn't turn in their gold for 20 bucks. They hid it. But the problem is like you had to actually physically hide it somewhere. And if you carried it around on you and somebody like you were found with it on you, then it was confiscated because it was illegal. Or if you wanted to get your gold outside of the physical United States of America, like this is 1933, your option was like you basically load it up in a carriage and hook up your horse to your carriage, or by that time, some people had cars. Maybe you hopped in your, Ford Model T, and what you're going to drive your gold to the Atlantic coast and load it up in a boat and ship it to the Cayman Islands. Like you didn't really have much choice, right? Because it like is a physical like item and it has weight and mass. Like it had value, but it also had weight and mass. Like it was very difficult to keep your gold and be able to do anything with it. So, whereas Bitcoin has a lot of properties similar to gold, but it exists in a digital space. So you don't actually have to physically carry it around on you. If you wanted to get it outside of the United States, it exists basically in the cloud. You could have your Bitcoin in a cold storage wallet, and you could hop on a plane, fly to a different country, and access your Bitcoin from anywhere in the world. So,
Chris, do you have Bitcoin?
I do have some Bitcoin.
NFTs?
No.
Okay. Okay, continue with the story.
Do you want to buy some of Mike's trading cards? Like, Mike, do you still have those on your desk? Can you show them to Chris? Maybe Chris wants to buy some of your superhero trading cards.
We got some of them like this.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
That's probably worth a lot of money.
If you get a really low mint number, it's worth quite a bit. I don't have any very low mint numbers, so unfortunately, I don't got the money.
But they're still pretty cool.
They're cool.
So,
to me.
So I like them too. I'm a superhero guy. I just thought it was funny that you brought up NFTs because you're like. Anyway, sorry, Chris. Continue on. They've got all the gold. It's $35 an ounce now.
They got all the gold. It's 35. So now Americans aren't allowed to own gold. So they kept that price of gold of 1 ounce of gold to 35 US dollars until 1971. So during this entire period of time, no American citizens can have gold. Like people don't have like gold bars. They're not buying and selling things in gold. It's illegal for them to hold gold. But in other places in the world, they still have gold. And during that time, after World War II, the American dollar became kind of the dominant global currency. So instead of having to trade in gold, the United States basically said, you can trust the value of the US dollar. Why bother, dragging gold around with you everywhere, shipping gold everywhere? You can sell your gold to the United States, France, England, Germany, Japan, Russia, whoever in the world. You can bring us your gold and we will sell you US dollars for $35 per ounce. And the United States dollar started traveling all around the world and became the dominant global currency. And then in 1971, a lot of countries started to question whether or not the United States actually had enough gold in its vaults to cover that exchange rate of 35 US dollars per ounce of gold. Like what would happen if the Prime Minister of France said, you know what, I think I want to just load up a ship with United States dollar bills and send it across to New York and say, America, here's all your dollar bills back. give me my gold. And so that kind of thing started happening. And so the president of the United States at the time, Nixon, came up with a brilliant solution to deal with the fact that all of the other countries in the world no longer wanted to, use the dollars. They wanted to get their gold back. And he just simply created a new law that said, well, now gold's not worth anything in US dollars. Just Shazam. There's now no longer a gold standard. So I know, it was supposed to be $20 was an ounce of gold. And then we took everybody's gold and then we said it's $35 for an ounce of gold. And then we convinced everyone else in the world to give us their gold. Well, but now, like, you can no longer bring $35 back to America and expect to get your ounce of gold because the US dollar is now no longer on the gold standard. So interestingly enough, as soon as he did that, the market price of gold over the next couple of years immediately shot up to $500.
Perfect.
So as you can imagine, what that kind of alluded to is the fact that maybe the United States had just printed so much money and exported all that value all over the world, and that instead of keeping it at only $35 printed for every ounce of gold they had, that they had actually gone out and printed $500 and spent all that money.
So why should I buy a Lamborghini?
So
I don't know yet.
The whole moral of the story is that actual physical things have a certain intrinsic value, but the dollars or the value that we associate to them in dollars is constantly changing. And basically for the past 100 years, it's constantly been going down. The value of the money has been going down and the value of the goods and services have been going up. So, but I like to ask myself sometimes, like, has the value of the thing really changed or has the value of the money changed? And what I've determined is that it's actually the value of the money is changing. So what we have is we have a world where people are paid in dollars, but the longer you hold on to those dollars, the less those dollars can buy you. So my just thought is that $376,000 Lamborghini that you want, in 12 and a half years, that Lamborghini is probably going to be like an $800,000 Lamborghini. So in that sense, if you have decided that, at some point in your lifetime, you are going to be the owner of that Lamborghini and you can physically make the payments, potentially you are saving yourself some money by buying it today and financing it over 150 months, which sounds completely absurd.
But potentially true.
It might potentially be true.
Especially if there's another pandemic.
Because let me ask you, if you, like, I think in Durham region 10 years ago, you could have bought a house for $250,000.
Well, we've had our house for 12 years and it's 1,400 square feet. It's a detached house. It's not anything special, but we paid $212,000 for it.
Yeah. And what do you think your house is worth now?
Conservatively, $750.
750
like today.
So it's more than tripled.
A year ago, I think it was worth $850.
Yeah. So the rule of 7 says that, like, if you have 7% interest, like 7% return, your money doubles in 10 years. But basically in 10 years, your house tripled in value. So in theory, like if you bought your house and you had to finance the whole thing, if you were paying 7% interest and your house more than doubled in 10 years, that you actually were better off buying it sooner and paying the interest.
Which is what you're just applying to the Lamborghini.
Well, I'm applying it to Lamborghini. See, houses is different because people are used to houses always going up in value, and they're used to things like Lamborghinis going down in value. But the situation with inflation has gotten so bad that we're potentially going to start seeing, and we already are seeing, things like Lamborghinis going up in value. Look at how much used cars went up in the last 2 years. Basically, the more dollars that the governments print that are chasing the same amount of goods and services just drive the prices of those goods and services up exponentially.
Let me put this in Chad's kind of language. Chad, you should buy as many Chinese excavators as you possibly can.
I was gonna say my investment sounds a hell of a lot better now than
Mike.
it did 20 minutes ago.
Oh,
And it
I love
sounded
it,
good then.
Mike, you literally brought that full circle right back to where I was going to take it.
So, I was looking at a dump truck this week, 2019, which means it was probably purchased in 2018 and then built in the latter half of the year. So it got stamped with a 19 tag. It's a good truck, well cared for, from a guy I've known for quite a while who's well known for taking care of his trucks, but he wants $220,000 for it. And I'm like, I'm fairly confident this guy didn't pay $220,000 for this truck in 2018. On the flip side, to buy the brand new truck to replace it is $297,000 now. So at $220,000, this truck looks like a really good deal, but in reality, I bet this guy paid $205,000 for this truck, or maybe $200,000 in 2018. So the truck's been used for 4 years and well taken care of, beautiful, but it's actually increased in value, which I don't think that's happened in my lifetime before, that you could buy any kind of vehicle, use it for 4 years, and then sell it for more than what you paid for it. I don't see that having happened, especially if you bought it from new.
No.
I could see if you bought a vintage Porsche and then drove it for 4 years and then sold it again. It's older now and it's more vintage and there's less of them inherently because at least one of them crashed. But we're talking something that's brand new that's actually worth, I think, probably worth more than what was paid for it. That's insane. And
it's the financialization. That's what we call it, the financialization. And it's happened so severely in the housing market because everybody needs a house and people have always viewed housing as a stable investment that, at one point in time, somebody would only buy a house because they needed a place to live, right? And then people started buying houses as investments for other people to live, but because other people needed a place to live. But when we have a situation like we have now where, if you leave your money sitting in cash, it's just constantly getting eroded away. It leads to perverse incentives where people start buying things to generate a financial return or to just safeguard their purchasing power that they really shouldn't be buying or wouldn't need to buy or shouldn't need to buy in order to protect their purchasing power, but they do it out of necessity. And so they basically gravitate towards actual physical things that have a tangible value, like a house.
I feel attacked. I thought you were talking about Chinese excavators again.
No, but what I'm saying is
kidding.
because the house prices have tripled, because Paver King's house price has tripled, some people rode that housing wave. But now that the house prices are so high, it's like a trickle down effect. So, house prices have tripled. What's next? Next, the Lamborghinis are going to triple. And after that, the Chinese excavators are going to triple. And Chad's going to have cornered the market.
But
right on.
in theory, Chad's money is still better off in those Chinese excavators than in the bank because it's not getting eroded in the Chinese excavators.
Exactly.
So I'll be a little transparent. My return on the one Chinese excavator that I sold was 25%. So that's just ballparking it on my end, but like that's a big return for 1 month of money invested.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know if that's good because I'm not a salesman, right? I don't know. I don't make sales all the time. I work, but I feel like
Honestly,
that's
Chad, a couple
a pretty
more
good.
sales and you're going to have private equity firms knocking down your door wanting to buy your Chinese excavator resale business.
Yeah, yeah. But they could have it for themselves. All they have to do is hit that auction. I'm not doing anything special here, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I think that return on that, if you look at the amount of time and effort it takes to make $2,500 landscaping versus the amount of time and effort it took to buy a Chinese excavator online, in theory, you could have paid me to bring it out to Cornwall. You didn't need to come and do it yourself, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So even if that lowered your return, say I brought the excavator to you and that lowered your return to 23%, you basically would have done almost nothing to make a 23% return on that excavator in less than 2 weeks.
Well, you're taking the risk, right? Because you don't know if it's going to sell at all.
Oh, I'm not minimizing the
and you have
risk.
to have the money out, like have the actual money to make the investment to try and get something out of it. Right?
I was just talking purely about the success of the return.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a very successful return compared to how many street trees do you got to plant and water and take care of and risk dying and risk replacement versus that amount of time and effort compared to the time and effort it took to sell the Chinese excavator. Like, obviously, I think that some of the other ones may take a bit more time and effort to sell.
Yeah, of course.
But I still think the risk reward or even just the return should be very satisfying on your end to have recognized that and made a return on it. Like, because
as
even
for
that guy who bought it off you, there's an argument for him that he was never ever going to be the guy to buy it from Ritchie Brothers, organize that, get it shipped, bring it to there for what the markup was, the 25%. I bet that guy would pay that all day long to just pick up the excavator from your yard and go on his way.
Because it is a pain in the ass to deal with the auction and the buyer's premium, and then I got to get someone to ship it from the auction site to my yard and then sit on them for a bit. And like there's cogs in the wheel that not a lot of people see, I guess, right? So it's not like super easy money, but sometimes it beats going out and planting 12 trees and watering and staking and mulching and all this shit, right? Especially in the winter when you can't do any of that stuff.
I watched the excavator. This is like the Chinese excavator episode sponsored by Arnts.
Again.
I watched the excavator digging, and if the thumb hadn't been on it, and I know you would move the thumb off it in a real, I thought the thing was pretty productive.
It actually digs better than I thought it would dig. And that was semi-frozen packed gravel, that thing had some bite for what it was.
I liked it. So when I watched that video, though, I felt like you recorded the video and then overlaid the commentary later.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
You wouldn't have been able to hear me in the video because the thing is so goddamn loud.
I didn't know that Chad had that kind of technology.
Chad, do you think you could start throwing in a free pair of earplugs?
Earmuffs? Like the big set, the nice.
Yeah. Like the bigger the better.
If they're not $50. Selling, he'll start to have to do some giveaways of some sort.
They come with a toolbox with a bunch of Chinese tools in them. But yeah, I guess.
Just make sure the earmuffs come with mine on delivery.
Come with yours on delivery.
Toolbox of Chinese tools.
You should see the grease gun in this thing. I don't know how you load the grease gun because it's not a normal size grease gun. It's like a mini. And I don't know where you buy mini tubes of grease.
I've seen them at Canadian Tire.
The mini tubes?
I've seen mini tubes. Yeah.
Really?
I don't know if they're the right size for your Chinese grease gun, but I've seen smaller tubes of grease at Canadian Tire. Now, whether or not they're the right size or not, I'm not 100% sure. So, Mike, go ahead, Chad.
I've bought not full-size excavators, but other minis that came with no tools at all. So another bargain when you buy a Chinese excavator is you get the tools with it.
Do you
Hmm.
see what you should have done was said they're 11.5 and they're 11.6 with the toolkit. And that would have given you the bargain. And then when someone says, well, I need some money off, you say, I'll throw in the toolkit. Even though it really just
Yes.
came with the excavators.
And the deluxe diamond checkered pattern floorboard
Yeah.
or whatever.
And take the thumb off too.
Take the thumb off.
Yeah.
Yes,
You can
yes.
break it down and make a lot more money.
Some guy asked if I had any attachments for them. Like
Forks.
like what the fuck? Like attachments. I guess because you could like, specifically I want an auger. I'm like, I don't know. What do you want me to tell you? Like, no, I don't have an auger for the thing.
Okay. Are we in the worst hour, Mike?
We're well into the worst hour.
Okay.
Except Chris kind of threw that for a loop and gave us a bunch of value in our worst hour. So
he did give us.
Oh, I'm sorry. You can cut all that.
Chris, are you ready for the questions?
I'm ready.
Okay. Are you ready? These are questions direct from the internet.
Perfect.
Are we going to say who asked these questions, or are we just going to ask them? Because I think
Are they
some
all
of these
local to you? Or are they from all over the
no,
place?
not all of them. I feel like we should ask a few. I think I'm just going to ask the questions, and if you hear your question, you'll know that I asked it. First question. This is a loaded question.
Uh-oh.
Who's the most beautiful woman in the world?
My wife.
good
Woo!
answer.
Walk through that one, and that's why he's the owner of the landscape supply. Not the guy in the pickup truck who drives through the landscape supply. Okay, question number 2. Have you had any good pickles lately?
Recently, no. But I will say that I think the best pickles are Vlasic pickles.
Really?
The
Yes.
crunch.
I'm a big fan of Vlasic pickles.
We have these pickles right now. They're called McCulloch's, and they're like pre-cut into quarters,
Ooh.
and they're good. But I do like a Vlasic pickle. Haven't had one in a while, but I can respect that choice.
Yeah, you know what else has really grown on me lately is other pickled vegetables.
Pickled tomatoes.
Pickled cabbage.
Ooh.
Mike, are you not going to add? This is like such a setup for Mike.
For me?
Yeah,
Why?
because you're obsessed with pickled eggs.
I'm obsessed. You're the one
Chris,
giving away pickled
Chris.
eggs.
Chris, do you enjoy a pickled egg?
No, I do. I love eggs. I love eggs of all types. I enjoy a good hard-boiled egg, but as long as it's hard-boiled and the yolk can be hard, but it looks like they took it out of the perfect time and the yolk like just got hard,
Yeah.
that's ideal. I like fried eggs. I like scrambled eggs. I'm actually famous in my house for my scrambled eggs because I like whip them very excessively with a whisk, and then I even like whip them over heat once I put them in the pan, so they come out like super fluffy. So super fluffy scrambled eggs are always a win, and poached eggs with hollandaise, like a classic eggs Benny. Can't go wrong
But
with
not a pickled egg.
not a pickled egg. And you know what? Deviled eggs, we do those once a year at Christmas, on Christmas Eve at my house, and I will have like one or two, and that's it. That's it. I don't really. It's too much mayo.
Too much mayo.
In my defense, PK, I did already ask Chris if he partaked in your pickled eggs when.
I was away.
I already had that answer.
I should have known you'd squeeze in pickled eggs before now.
But what I can tell you about pickles is, in my experience, you should generally avoid individually wrapped pickles. But there's also something to be said. You know, I don't know if you've really ever lived unless you've experienced an individually wrapped pickle at the side of the road outside of Cleveland, Ohio.
At Mookie's.
At Mookie's.
Yeah. All right. So next question. This is a serious question. Does Arnts have a direct ship program?
Does Arnts have a direct ship program?
That's the question.
Oh, yeah, I'd say yeah, we do have a direct ship program. We've been direct shipping material since the beginning. I think direct ship programs are great. There's lots of products that we can ship direct. Gravel, if you want gravel and you need a full truckload to your job site, um, just call us and tell us you're interested in direct ship gravel, and we can deliver gravel from the pit to your job site cheaper than we can if we have to bring it and stock it in our yard and send it out from our stockpile. The caveat to that, of course, is, sometimes people call us and they want something right away. So, like if you called the morning of and you said, "Hey, I need some granular A and I want it right now," and we have a truck, it's like, well, if you want it there in 45 minutes or an hour, if we have a truck available, we'd have to take it to our stockpile. But generally, if you order ahead, if you order, the day before, 2 days before, and you needed a full load of gravel, we can direct ship that to your job site. Armor stone loads, those can be direct shipped. Pavers can be direct shipped too. The biggest thing we see though is the majority of the landscape jobs that we supply, it's not very often that a contractor wants all of one material, all from one plant, and wants a truckload, right? Like on your job site, sometimes you want, a certain paver for the field, and then your client picks a different product for the border, or there's a retaining wall in the job. So you start mixing, matching products together. It's like, well, if all those products aren't made at the same plant by the same manufacturer, it becomes kind of irrelevant whether or not you can drop ship them, because the drop shipping would take more time than it would just to have all the materials picked and packed out of a yard like ours that has them all in stock. So I guess the short answer to the question is yes, we do have a direct ship program. If you're interested in the direct ship program, you can absolutely give us a call and we can talk to you about how you can potentially save by ordering direct. But what we also find is the average residential landscape project that we supply isn't always necessarily conducive to direct shipping product.
How many skids come on a direct ship order? Like how many skids can you get on a B train from a plant on a direct, like say on a direct order?
So RB trains, we can take 100,000 pounds without a Moffat, and we can take about 90,000 pounds with the Moffat. So I always say the average paving stone, it usually works out to about 30 pallets. And if the average 6 centimeter paver has 100 square feet in a pallet, you're talking about 3,000 square feet.
That's what yeah, okay.
Yeah. So what I would say to any contractor out there, if you're in that position, you say, okay, I need 3,000 square feet of pavers, all the same product, delivered all at once to a job site, you should ask us about the option of direct shipping it. And if we can direct ship it, then we can all save money together. But if you order on Friday afternoon and you want the pavers delivered on Monday morning, and I have them in my yard, and the plant that manufactures those pavers is 5 hours away, you just might end up in a situation where, it's like we can either get you the pavers that you want out of our yard at the time you want them, or we can absolutely coordinate a direct ship. We can save you money, but there'll be a time delay in order to go and get those pavers direct from the manufacturer's plant.
Do you think that inherently, this isn't actually from the internet, this is just me, I feel like after dealing with the pandemic shortages, I am a more organized landscaper than I was pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Do you think that's average for everybody?
Yeah, I would say so. Like I said before, I think before the pandemic, we didn't have hardly any customers calling us in the winter, letting us know, hey, these are my upcoming projects, like starting to build orders. They basically a lot of times jobs would be like the next job up, or it would be 2 jobs out, and then we would start getting orders for product. So, then we obviously had the spike in demand during the pandemic. So we had people ordering 6, 12 months in advance. But now there are some contractors that I would say are still ordering, 1 to 2 months in advance. And I think that's probably a good thing. I think if you are organized and you know what materials you're going to need, and you build a list and you work with your supplier to let them know like a month or two ahead of time what you're going to need, that they can start, building their inventory or building your order for you. And I think it helps everybody.
All right. Were the skid coasters as a Christmas gift a passive aggressive response to everyone complaining? This is our even worse hour. This is an even worse hour.
The skid coasters in the Arnts
Christmas gifts. Yeah.
Contractor gift baskets.
Were they a response, a passive aggressive response? I love this wording to everyone complaining. Like, what do you think? Yes, no. Like, you think that that's something that was considered at Arnts as you were putting together the gift bags, that, or do you think the skids were just a?
Well, I can tell you that, I had nothing to do with the selection of the skid coasters in the Christmas gift basket.
Was a deposit placed on everybody's account that got one?
No, but
Okay.
there was definitely a realization at some point before the baskets went out, almost like a light bulb went off, where it was like, this is kind of funny. We're sending out coasters in the gift basket that are the skids. And I know, because internally there was kind of jokes being made of like, if you are using those coasters and you have guests over to your house and you give them one of those coasters to put their drink on, like, are you going to be charging your house guests a deposit for using that coaster for their cold beverage in your house?
So here's the last question, and it's from the same person about the skid usage fees, and that's all it says. So, Chris, what are your feelings as a supplier? I mean, we are aware of contractors' feelings about the skid usage fees, and I think that sometimes wrongfully the suppliers, the supply yards, all of them, this isn't a Arnts specific problem, are getting blamed for these skid usage fees. So what is the real story? This is breaking news, not our finest hour, never been discussed. What is the real story on a supplier side? Do you hate them as much as us, or do you fucking love collecting $5 for every manufacturer and passing it on to them?
I feel like I dislike skid usage fees even more than the contractors. I have a very anti-skid usage fee stance. Arnts is anti-skid usage fee. We have been anti-skid usage fee from the very beginning.
Want to elaborate, or that's it?
I can elaborate. It's really crazy when you think about it. So let's just say the average paving stone is $4 or $5 a square foot, and you get 100 square feet of paving stones on a skid. So you're $400, $500, $500 is the value of a pallet of interlocking paving stones. And right now the pallet underneath the paving stones, just to transport the paving stones, is $40. Like, it represents like 10% of the value of the product. Like, isn't that crazy?
I feel like it's crazy. Yes.
Like doesn't that just seem bizarre to you? Like, every time I've talked about it to manufacturers, or even when we've because we have some products like bag products and stuff we manufacture ourselves, so we've actually gone out into the the skid marketplace to acquire skids, and it's just, in some ways it's fascinating, in other ways it's kind of bizarre that we haven't come up with a better solution that, doesn't require a cost that equals 10% of the value of the products. Like, could you imagine like
Okay,
10% of the
but
cost of other?
back in the day, the skids used like if you and maybe some products still come like this, but I remember back in the day when I used to pick up products at Arnts, 90% of them were squeezed and dropped on because they were banded all the way around.
Yeah.
And a lot of products were moved around the yard by your pinching forklifts. And I would say that almost no products that go for sale now aren't wrapped in plastic right to the skid. Or I would say 85% of them, which
I'd say
before,
more. I'd say 95%.
because at one time, whenever I ordered product, like this is aging myself, but when I used to order product, I used to have to say I want it on skids. But now, realistically, there just is no product to buy that isn't on skids, minus maybe like 4 by 8 by 12 blocks.
Yeah.
Call them whatever you will, stackers, dimensional stones, whatever you want to call them. Those are still banded and squeezable, and they can set them in, because we used to go and buy like a section, and you would grab the section and squeeze it and place it on the truck, and then we would drive away without any straps or tarps because it was 1989.
So
but
I have an anecdotal story about that for you, about this whole concept that you're talking about. So I would agree with you. Even the last 2 years, there was a few remaining products, a couple 4x8s, some tumbled pavers that technically still came strapped in sections, not in layers. And if you have a crane truck that offloads with a clamp, or in our yard, we have forklifts that have squeezies on them that you could get them on and off the truck by squeezing the bundles. You didn't need skids. So there was a couple products that we could still get the product and potentially bypass the skid usage fee on a few products. But this is like, we're down to like the last 2% of products. So we recently placed an order with one of our suppliers. This was just like 2 weeks ago for a commercial job, and it is a large order of 4x8 pavers. And, me trying to avoid a skid usage fee at all cost, reached out to the customer and said, "Hey, you bought 4x8 pavers. Do you want to save the skid usage fee? Because we can probably get this product, banded and strapped and send it on a crane truck, and then we could drop it off at your site and crane it off the truck, and then you wouldn't have to pay the skid deposits, and you wouldn't have to pay the $5 skid fee." And then something very, very interesting happened over the next couple days. One, the contractor said, "No, sorry, I want the product delivered on skids." And they had good reason, because they have, skid steers or other equipment on site that they need to move the equipment around. And so if it's not on skids, it becomes problematic for them. Unless they had, technically, if they had their own skids, they could have just brought their own skids to the site. And when my truck showed up, we could have craned them off the truck right onto his pallets.
yeah, we used to do that all the time back in the day.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to pay the
our
skid
own
deposits.
if we knew a delivery was coming, we'd bring all our own skids from the yard.
Yeah. So that side, the customer side, is not what really shocked me. What shocked me was, like, and thankfully the contractor had responded and told me that he wanted skids anyways, because after I had asked the contractor and he said he wanted the skids, then my manufacturing partner messaged me and told me that unfortunately we didn't have an option, and that they were only manufacturing the 4x8s in such a way and packaging them on skids, and I had no choice but to take the 4x8s on a skid. So even the 4x8, the last bastion of skidless landscaping is now skidded.
It stuck it out for a long time. Credit
did.
to it. It held firm.
It held
It
firm.
held strong.
It held strong.
Goodbye, good soldier.
Goodbye. 2023.
R.I.P.
RIP.
R.I.P. Good soldier. So that's
So
the
here we
end
are.
of the questions from the Instagram. Those were the skid usage fee was the final one. Chris, even though this is not our finest hour, I know that you guys are now, and I think it's interesting because I think you're one of the only landscape supply yards doing it. So I will bring it up. You guys are selling wood and Trex.
Oh yeah, the wood.
And I think that's an interesting combination because I don't, if there is another landscape supplier doing this, sorry, I don't know. There could be. I'm not obviously frequenting but the majority of landscape suppliers I know are not places where you can pick up your decking materials and pick up your pavers all in one location at one time. So that seems like an Arnts innovation.
It is. And that, that's something we probably could have spent a lot of time talking about on this podcast if we hadn't been sidetracked by the Chinese excavators. But, there's nothing we can do about that now. But we can we can quickly talk about it. So we actually started selling some pressure treated lumber before the pandemic. We were stocking posts and it was going quite well. Unfortunately, we were not a big player in the pressure treated world. So when all the shortages hit during the pandemic, we were abruptly cut off from the wood supply. But we weren't too concerned about it because obviously, as you know, we were busy just trying to make sure we were getting pavers and retaining walls and other concrete products from our kind of our main vendor partner. So it kind of fell by the wayside. And then this year, through one of our vendors that we've built a relationship with the past couple of years, the opportunity came back up. So we kind of jumped on it and started bringing in some wood products, and we had a little promotion in March for some existing clients for some wood products as kind of a soft launch, and that went really well. And so we're going to be continuing to stock up for the rest of the season, and we're going to be starting to promote that soon. And then that decision to bring in the pressure treated wood also came in conjunction with us now being a stocking dealer of Trex composite decking products. So material is already on the ground. There's basically 24, call it colors or SKUs of Trex in their lineup. And we've already got our first shipment. So we've got 3 colors on the ground. We're going to be getting a second shipment with 3 more colors. So for this season, we're going to have 6 colors or styles, whatever you want to call it, of Trex decking in stock. 12-foot, 16-foot, 20-foot groove boards. So all 3 sizes, 20-foot solid boards, and the 8-inch fascia boards is what's going to be in stock in the 6 colors. But the good news is you can still get whatever color you want. You can still order it by the piece. Our vendor partner is able to break down the lifts for us and sell it to us on a job lot basis as well. So if you are interested in a color that's not one that we stock, we can still get it for you, and they ship to us weekly. So we had a lot of success with the Trex line last year, and we were only selling it in job lots, and that kind of led to the opportunity this year to kind of sit down with the suppliers, and they were looking for a new stocking dealer. So we kind of made a deal with them and stepped into that role, and we're really excited about it. So if any of those products interest anybody, we're actually going to be kicking off our Wake Up Wednesdays for this season with our first contractor Wake Up Wednesday, which is going to be next Wednesday, April 5th. So it's in the morning from 7 a.m. to noon. And our first Wake Up Wednesday is actually Trex and Fasten Master, which makes all the clips and plugs and specialty fastening products that go along with the trucks and the pressure treated lumber. So we just released, I think, the first post on social media on Instagram today about the Wake Up Wednesday, but there'll be more coming in the next few days. And we'll probably also be sending out an email to our contractors that are on our email mail out list. So watch for that for those of you that are on the list. And if you're not on that list and you want to be on that list, just give us a call or reach out to us on social media or email us, check out our website, and we can get you on that list.
I'm curious about composite decking. Why should a contractor go with composite as opposed to pressure treated or something like that? I know nothing about decks, by the way.
Yeah, so the composite would be an upgraded product over pressure treated. Like the cost of composite deck boards is a lot more than regular pressure treated boards, but they come with extensive warranties. Like you're looking at like 25 to 50-year warranties on composite decking. They're more scratch resistant, fade resistant, stain resistant. There's a whole bunch of different color options. If you want a gray deck, you can get a gray deck out of wood. You just got to paint it gray. Well, if you paint your deck gray, then there's going to be ongoing maintenance at some point to repaint the deck. Whereas with a composite deck, if you want a gray deck, it's gray from day one, and it's going to be that same color forever.
Gotcha.
So are there any other sales? Because I'm going to guess that this episode is not coming out before April 5th. Mike?
No, but I mean, we could push it up, but it's not in the lineup to come out April 5th.
Do you think the lineup matters?
I don't think it matters.
Do you think there's any consistency between episodes? Do you think there's like an ongoing? I feel like we're more of a Law and Order show. Like Law and Order was like the show started in an hour and ended in an hour, and there was no real continuation. The next week it was a new story. I feel like that's this kind of show. I don't think we're like a long-term kind of, if you didn't see the 5 episodes of X-Files before, you're fucked on this episode. I don't feel like we're that kind of show at all. I don't think that's us. So
in my OCD brain, it'll kill me, but I could find a way to,
my OCD. So I was going to say, Chris, do you have any other sales upcoming that our listeners may be interested in for April, or are you going to hold back on that just in case this episode, Mike is not able to allow himself to put this episode out before April 5th?
It could be out before April 5th. Like that's totally.
Should I give you like the August sales? Like what kind of like
bring down the August sales, man?
What's the backlog on the podcast release here? Like how many are in the queue?
No, it could go out Monday. Like don't worry about that. If you've got April sales, like let them fly.
Monday. Why would we put out a podcast on Monday?
Oh, I'm thinking about my podcast. Sorry. Friday. This Friday.
Mike has a lot of shit going on.
I was just trying to plug my podcast.
Couple podcasts, a very active website, couple fucking accounts, a whole software program that Chris would probably appreciate because he is a numbers guy.
I would. I love a good software.
Yeah, well, Mike has his own software that he created. That's great for knowing your numbers.
Not intended for suppliers, but I mean, if you wanted to sign up, we'd squeeze you in.
There you go.
We'd be happy to onboard you into the software. So,
yeah.
What's your you got any sales coming up for April that contractors should know about?
We do, but what I would say is follow us on Instagram. Perfect. If you're not currently following us on Instagram, follow us, because all of the sales that we have upcoming, and we do have some, we're going to have some product sales, and also we're going to have some amazing opportunities for some clearance sales on like one-off products, some specialty products, but some stuff that like has tremendous value that is going to be sold at heavily discounted prices. So if any of those things interest you, follow us on Instagram, because we are going to be posting regularly about these sales and opportunities on the Arnts Landscape Supplier Instagram page.
So you're saying people should follow at Arnts the Landscape Supplier?
at Arnts the Landscape Supplier.
Perfect. Is there anywhere else they should? That's the Instagram is the thing.
That's the Instagram. I think that's
Is
the
there a
thing.
Facebook page?
There is a Facebook page for anybody that
Perfect.
still uses Facebook. There's a website.
Said like a true millennial.
Yep. www.arnts.ca.
All right. Well, there you go. So is this the, oh, go ahead, Mike.
I do have one last question for you, Chris.
Oh,
Perfect.
perfect.
In true not our finest hour fashion, I feel like this question comes at the end when it should come at the beginning. This is my first time talking to you, Chris, and I actually didn't even get to know you or anything before this. We hit record as soon as we started, to anyone listening here. So, Chris, I want to ask, like, what was your upbringing in the industry? Like, how did you get started in the industry? This probably should have been at the very beginning.
Absolutely. What's the history of the company? This is a great question, Mike.
How did you get started, and like what brought you to today? I guess like a quick rundown, but whatever you want to go with that.
Yeah, well, it's we're a third generation family business. So, if we take it all the way back, my grandfather came over here from the Netherlands in 1954, and then he got into some agricultural stuff, into trucking. It was when they were building the 401, the DVP, trucked a lot of gravel down for those kind of projects. But he was a horticulturalist at heart, and so he surprised my grandmother one day, came home, and he had bought a topsoil screener. And the story that I've been told is that the topsoil screener cost more than their house. And he just showed up with it one day and kind of rolled it into the backyard and said, I'm going to start screening topsoil and selling it to people, which at that time was a very bizarre concept. Nobody was doing that. This would have been like the maybe like the late 60s or early 70s. So my grandparents had bought a property on Brock Road in Pickering. That's where our old yard used to be, and that's where he started screening the topsoil, and he started stockpiling aggregates and some other things. So it was kind of soil, aggregates, and trucking. And then when my dad and my uncle kind of grew up, they got involved in the business. But then my dad actually left and had started his own landscaping business before I was born. And then Unilock opened up the first paving stone plant in the area in Pickering, like right down the road from us. And so my grandfather's first customer that he was kind of buying paving stones for and stocking them in his yard, which was in the field behind his house, was for my dad, because he was doing landscaping. So after they started doing this for a period of time, then my grandfather and my dad, had a discussion at some point and decided that my grandfather was going to retire at some point and my dad should stop landscaping and take over the store, which he did. And then so he stopped installing and focused on just supply. And from there they grew the business on Brock Road in Pickering until the land was purchased by the government for an airport that never got built. And then they bought the property that we're on in Whitby now in 1999, and it was basically about a 10-year move to go from Brock Road in Pickering to Lake Ridge Road. Well, first it was Halls Road. We were actually on Halls Road in Whitby. But then, funny enough, government came and took part of their land again, this time for a highway. But this time they did build the highway, the 412 that runs right next to our yard. So we had to get a whole new address and a new driveway and everything off Lake Ridge Road. And that's where we are today.
Interesting. Did you always know that you're going to get into the family business?
No, I was never going to get into the family business at first. I worked there as a kid. I started working when I was probably about 12 years old. I would come in and work on Saturdays. So my grandfather used to do the dispatching of the dump trucks. And so I would come in on Saturdays and help him dispatch the dump trucks. And then after a period of time, then I also started, coming in Saturdays, taking orders, working in the office. I was never on the equipment. Nobody ever let me near the equipment. That's why I need my Chinese excavator to hold my equipment operator skills. So I worked there all as a kid. I worked there all through high school, worked a lot through high school, worked a couple other jobs. I worked at Future Shop. Where else I worked? In university, I delivered food for people in my car so I could make my car payments. I worked as a residence advisor, and thought I was going to go to university and become a doctor, actually. So I got an undergrad degree in medical sciences, and started applying to medical schools and applying to a couple PhD programs. I was doing a lot of like drug brain research. It's a lot of fun. And then I really just had a change of heart all of a sudden one day and went back one last summer. I thought it was going to be my last summer working at Arnts before I went and started my PhD. And all of a sudden I just like saw the business in a completely different light and was like, holy smokes, there's so much opportunity here, and it's a great business, and there's great people, people both that work for us, and great other people in the industry, customers, vendors. And so I kind of did a big 180 turn in my life and said, this is what I'm going to do. And that was in 2011. So 12 years later, I just haven't looked back, and I think it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
Nice. And then I do have one final question, and then I'll shut up here. Your first time meeting Paver King, where was it? What were your first impressions, and what was that like?
Well, so I'm pretty sure Mike and I would have met in passing at some point in the old Ernst Brock Road days when he was coming in under his original company to buy materials. Like I definitely knew of him, and there's a chance that we probably talked on the phone or I took an order for him at some point. But if I could put a start date to our current relationship, Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was a Landscape Ontario barbecue.
Yes,
At Sheridan Nurseries.
That's true.
Up the road from ours. And that would have been had to have been what, like 2012, 2013?
Probably somewhere
around there. Yeah.
Maybe a bit, or maybe 20. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, somewhere around there, I would say. I know because I was walking by the Arnts tent and you said at this point I was managing Ridge Lake operations managing, I guess you would say. And when I walked by the Arnts tent, Chris said, you should buy more stuff from me. And I said, your prices fucking suck, bro. And he said, I can help you with that. I said, okay, man, because we bought everything. We bought everything direct from manufacturer then.
Yep.
And we weren't actually a very big client of Arnts at the time.
No.
So Chris, one of the lessons I learned from, but one of the lessons I definitely learned from Chris was solve other people's problems and their business will grow. So that was a motto from the beginning. So Chris solved a lot of problems for us back then. And then I think by the end of that run with that company, we probably bought like 95% of our products from you.
Yeah. You guys were one of our biggest customers at one point after a few years.
Yeah, because it became a harmonious relationship, and it certainly is easier to deal. We found it easier, and I still do today, to deal with one supplier than to go to 17 different manufacturers. And I mean, I used to spend a lot of time going through all the bills at the end of every month, justifying them all to projects. But if they were all in one project, it was easier to manage from one supplier. So I think that the supplier relationship was very beneficial.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you. That was the start of the current form of our relationship.
That was the start of the current form. And then since then, it's taken on many forms. You've gone from being a general manager of one of our customers to being our supplier sales rep
Yes.
to now being whatever you are now, a quasi customer, quasi trucking vendor.
Yes. Yeah. Quasi everything. Yeah. I guess taker of opportunities.
Taker of opportunities.
A looker for opportunity would be a good. But yeah,
The
I would
one
agree
thing,
that's the start of the relationship.
the one thing that was the most bizarre, though, was the period of time that you were the manufacturer sales rep.
Short-lived.
I feel like I think that was a bizarre.
But it's an important step of the journey.
When I quit that job, I said to them, like, when I ended up in the parking lot, it was like my whole life. I said this to the guys when I quit there. I said, guys, like my life went upside down in a matter of like 24 hours. I went from my life to a parking lot in literally 24 hours. And it was like someone took me and threw a window pane on the ground and it shattered into 10,000 pieces. And from the moment that it shattered, it was just me slowly picking up pieces to rebuild the window pane of the person I actually was. And those months at that manufacturer, I was just picking up the last few pieces where it was sort of like okay, this isn't for me. This is okay. It's not for me. And now I can go be me again. And so
that's deep.
That's how that's honestly how I felt about it. Chris has been around for a long part of that journey.
I'm so happy. It's so nice to see the Paver King back in his natural Paver King habitat.
Yeah.
It's like he's come full circle back to where he belongs.
It's
back to where he started.
Been a long journey coming. We're switching all our trucks to Paver King Limited because all our trucks are currently in mine. Not all of them anymore, but a vast majority of them were at one time all in my name because that was the CVOR we were using. But we're almost down to the only truck that is not switched over is my personal pickup truck that I own, that I bought with my own money, that the company never paid a penny for. And someone was saying to me, "Oh, you should switch it over," and I'm like, "I will never switch it over." And they said, "Why?" And I said, "Because some days you wake up and you need to live in your truck, and that can happen overnight. Yeah. And if you wake up one morning and all your trucks are in your company's name, you may not have a place to live." So,
words of wisdom.
So I keep that one vehicle in my name because you never know. The running joke the first year when I went back to Lake Ridge was I had kept two trucks from the business, and one of them resided at my parents' house, and it was parked on a hill where you could oversee the lake. So we called that the cottage. When I was living in that truck, and when I was living in the parking lot, that was the city house.
Yep.
So I had my city house and my lake house. But yeah. Anyways, that's why I kept the truck, and that's why I eventually put myself back together and made it back to. I don't know if this is a roaring success, but we've made payroll every week, so that's all that really counts, is that you're paying your people. So yeah. Somehow this came about my life. Rooted back to something about my ultra destruction of my life. Anyways, and we are starting hopefully next week on Monday, so I am pumped about that. I don't know when you guys are planning on starting, but
I got a lot of snow on the ground still.
What are we starting?
Season.
Oh,
the season, yeah.
Perfect.
I think I'm gonna probably go Monday. I have a porch overlay and I have a project in the beaches at someone's house that needs to get finished. That's all sand. So I feel like we got some opportunity. How's Cornwall looking, Chad?
Awful. I still got a foot of snow in some spaces and everything's wet and miserable, and we're painting trucks and we're greasing stuff, and
you did manage to pull your truck out of the ice.
Yeah, the loader got that out real quick. So
how's Kitchener? So do you drive from your house to Kitchener to do an inspection, Mike, on the sites to see when you should start?
No, like my family's in Kitchener, so I can just text them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you
So
ask the
It's
guy
not
with
like
the
that.
fish pond?
Yeah, I could do that too.
The fish
That's the
pond
fish
guy.
guy.
So what's your plan for starting, Mike?
I might start next week. It's kind of up in the air right now, but hey, if you're in the beaches, I might come by.
Nice. Oh,
You should come by. Maybe I'll come by. I want to
Yeah.
come.
maybe you should come by, Chris.
Yeah.
Maybe you could help the project manager of the project.
Oh my goodness.
Potentially, you could help.
I'd be more helpful if I had a little bit of experience on the Chinese excavator, but
You never know.
I
You
think
didn't-
your pockets are deeper than mine. You could have beat me on those
I
excavators.
couldn't because I went through a broker. I wasn't
That's true.
directly in on the action.
You need a more aggressive broker.
I do need a, you know what, Chad, are you in the Chinese excavator brokering business?
Hey, I'll buy it if you're gonna bankroll it. I'll keep hitting that increase bid button.
I did find it exciting when you posted the actual auction, Chad. But then
Oh, you did.
I just added 2 minutes, and I was like,
Yeah,
well,
I
this was
hate that.
they add 2 minutes for no reason. Like nobody
Yeah.
will bid. The
Like
bids
you've
don't
already
go up.
you've
They're
already
like 2
won
minutes.
it. You've already
2
won
minutes.
it, and
Yeah.
then they just add 2 more minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
and
would be
just-
super
just for
frustrating.
fun.
Did anyone bid in the 2 minutes?
It's rare that they did, right? Like, and then down in the last 30 seconds, it'll say going once, and then you got to count to 10, and then it'll say going twice, and you count to 10 again, and then like, oh, I got it, and then you're like, fuck, did I want it? Who knows? I got it now. So
Yeah, what's the immediate thought after the timer runs out? Like you're sitting there thinking like, I want somebody to outbid me. I want somebody to outbid me. And it's like, oh shit, nobody outbid me.
no, well, for the most part, like I was pretty confident with my bids and stuff, but there's always that after the fact, you're like, well, why didn't someone bid more? Did I
Yeah.
just get fucked?
Did I just overpay?
Yeah.
I want to know why you didn't
But-
buy the sweepers. Those things seemed like a fucking bargain for your own
Sweepers.
shop. You posted
Oh,
a video of this, like
yeah,
this this floor sweeper is $100. I'm like, why is he not buying that?
I should have. I missed
For
the
his
hot
own
water
shop.
pressure washer too. Yeah, like I missed the. There's always next time.
That's the
There's
great
always
thing about
Always
that's the
another
great thing about
auction.
that's the great thing about used shit.
There's
always more of
it.
shit.
There's always more of to the point though, the Chinese excavators are actually brand new, unused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hour meters are 0. I know
Yeah.
this because they were in our yard and we looked at them. Yeah.
Well,
They are-
and you know what I always say? It's better to be looking at it than looking for it.
That's
Yeah.
not what you always say, but I do know who always says that. I also think that you don't give yourself enough credit because I remember a job where this is one thing I do admire about Chris is that I remember a job where we had to work on a Sunday.
Oh, I remember
we're-
that job.
We were building a Lifetime Fitness and it had to open by a date and we absolutely had to work on Sunday. And Chris opened Arnts the Landscape Supplier all alone and loaded our trucks with soil all day by himself. So I think he's underselling his loader capabilities to run
Yeah,
the loader.
but that
So-
because there was a period of time when we were building the winter salt business, and so I actually used to work the night shift for salt. And so there's a period of time I did the training certification on the front end loaders. So they let me drive the 908 front end loader and the 950 front end loader, but I was never allowed to drive the 966 because apparently the steering is different. I don't know. I've never been in it. I've never sat in it. So
It's
can't
I
tell
think
you for
it's
certain.
it's got probably like the same controls as a dozer. Pilot controls, Chad. Pilot controls.
Something,
Yeah.
or it had like a
Yeah.
hydraulic steering or something different. But I was for a period of time. I'm not allowed to drive them anymore, but I was allowed to drive the 908 and the 950 loader. And I remember that going in that Sunday.
To load those trucks, baby.
To
and
load
keep
the trucks.
Keep the soil moving on
Keep
the
the soil moving. I actually go to that gym now. And every time I go there, I remember all the soil that we loaded. And the river rock and the swales between the parking
River Rock.
rooms.
HPB came from you.
Yeah,
gravel.
granular A.
Granular. It all
Yeah.
came from Art. That was a good project. I missed
Chris,
that.
It was.
have you ever hit something when you're loading or damaged something when you're loading? Not that I ever have done that before.
Oh, I totally like have hit the blocks like on our salt bin like our old salt bins, like when I was pushing up salt, like totally just like ran into one of the blocks with the bucket. Just like, oh, didn't see that there.
So full disclosure, Mike used to work at a landscape supplier. That's how he got his start in the business, Chris.
Nice. In the KWC,
KW? Yeah,
KW?
KWC, Tri-Cities, right?
Tri-Cities.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mike
nice.
is a veteran of the Canada geese trapping people in the mulch in the mulch bin.
Yeah.
Trapping in the mulch bin.
Hey,
Absolutely.
mulch is a fickle product, man. Don't mess with mulch.
Mulch is an expensive product, bro.
Yeah.
I remember when it was cheap. Like no one wanted it. It was like ground up garbage trees.
It
And
was.
no-
It was
now
like
it's like
it was wood garbage.
now it's like $50 a yard. Like
60
Yeah.
bucks a yard.
60
Holy
bucks a
shit.
yard. I should
Wow.
adjust my pricing. How much is
Yeah.
mulch in Cornwall, Chad?
Year before last or before COVID, must have been what, $25 a yard? Now we're up probably $45 a yard.
Yeah.
For
I
what?
got a mountain
They're
of it.
closer to the trees. That must be what
Yeah.
it is.
Oh,
My yard looks like a disaster. I could mulch all the shit that I just tore down, make my own mulch.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
You
I'm
can
gonna
pick
call-
it up from the dump in my city. They have like a mulch pile, but it's got all nails in it and shit, and you have to load it yourself.
Is that what you take out to the street tree jobs?
we don't use that stuff, but people
So
will
it's
go there and load
$45 and you have to load yourself.
Mhm.
Okay.
it. No. That's free, the city garbage mulch. But yeah.
All right, that's an episode, I think.
That's
it.
an episode.
End
That's
us
how we
off
end
there,
it.
PK. Oh, is that it?
Oh, you know what I did want to bring up, and I don't know if you can play it while Chris is here. We should have had it because Chad has a guitar in the background, and Chris is an avid guitar player. So when Chris is back, you guys can have a guitar off.
Oh,
live.
I'll bring my guitar next time. Do you want me to bring my guitar?
Chad has a guitar. Did you said you could play that guitar, right, Chad?
I could play. It's not in tune. It's been fucking years since I played any. I played
This
for
is
my
like-
daughter, but
Horrible sound. Anyways, so it's just a matter of creating interest to generate people sharing the podcast.
We need
we don't-
intro music.
So yeah, anyways, you did send some intro music on the email today.
Who?
It's attached to the email.
I did. I didn't even know that.
that's
I don't know.
something
I opened
completely
it
different.
and started playing it. I was like, why did Mike attach this? Because I've never heard it before. And then I thought, well, maybe this is what Mike wants to use as the intro music.
No,
No.
you didn't.
So I sent an email with like a bunch of my music and that was a long time ago, man. That was like 3 months ago. And none
Well, I
of you guys
just-
responded to it. So I just thought, you know what? They don't like my music, whatever.
I like the music.
But
it was good.
it probably shows up whenever I send a new link.
It showed up as an attachment. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, look, Mike sent music this week. And I opened it. Little did I know it was 3 months ago that Mike sent the music. Anyway, I was just saying we should definitely get because Chris, we don't have intro music, so we're not as pro as some of the competing podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I'm part of a cover band.
Cover band.
Yeah,
A cover band of what?
I'm in a cover band for that. We're me and my neighbors. We started a Lumineers cover band, and we
Nice.
call ourselves the Cleopatras.
Nice.
I don't know. I don't listen to this band, so I don't get the reference.
Do you play around Whitby?
No, around Toronto.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, up and down the street. Sometimes we go one street over.
Mostly in someone else's backyard.
Sometimes in other people's backyard.
Wow.
Well, Bill that works for us, Billy, he's in a Stone Temple Pilots cover band.
There you go.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. This is the end of the podcast. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Anytime,
Thank you.
brother.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
coming.
Do it again.